Welcome, welcome. It's the Lynn and Scott show, except that's not Scott.
I'm Scott.
Standing in for Scott, Mr. One and only Mr. Bob Donnell. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
It's an honor to have Mr. Next Level right here at the forefront. I am super excited. I'm excited that you picked the topic today for us too. Our wonderful Scott he's spending more time in Panama City Beach working with the firefighters and the fight against addiction and traumas. So his flights were a little wonky today. We might see him as in the message thing or whatever. And by the way, he's not here yet, but Sunday's his birthday. So we want to make sure to say happy birthday.
Gosh.
Scott's birthday, yes. So but
mine was last.
Yes, yours was last week. That's right. Sometime. How was your birthday?
My birthday was excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah,
everybody
thinks time.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. And so what I want to do is, before we get into our topic, I'd like to bring some of our panel that's with us right here, the one and only Miss Debbie.
Woo! Hey guys.
Miss Fabulous herself. And then we've got the one and only, the better half of Bob, Miss Flo.
Oh.
Thank you, Flo, for being here. Raise your mug, please, because I want one of those. Oh. Look at this mug. The farm girl. Edibles.
This one?
It should be no surprise to anyone that I would have a friend that has a place called Farm Edibles. If you know, you know. We'll leave that alone. And then we've got the 50 ways to love your lover, Mr.
Doing that.
Barry. I purposely do it. It's catchy and it makes people listen. So that's why you're here.
You can just read it clearly.
He obviously doesn't know I'm dyslexic and I mess things up, but he'll get that. And then we have the one and only. This is an amazing little book here. We got the one and only. Oh, wait, I got it. There we go. We got the Steve Rizzo's in the house. Thank you so much for being here, you guys. You guys, it really means a lot to Scott and I and Bob that you're all here and that we have the topic that we do. And I'm going to shut up and I'm going to let my co-host take over from here because I'm really appreciative of the topic and we picked.
Absolutely. Well, guys, it's great to see you again. It's always fun to hop on here and see you guys. You guys always provide such great value and great insights and thought-provoking stimulation. So I really appreciate you guys. And if you're watching live, in the chat, please text in. Let us know you're there. Let us know what's going on. If you have questions or comments, pop them in there. And today we're gonna start off with a question. Or the conversation is really about what have you found to be best practices in dealing with disappointment? There's no one that I've ever met in my life that's immune to disappointment. And so when I ask this, when I'm doing a Get Connected meal, it's amazing to watch how many people have unique things that they do to overcome disappointment. Or what they do to maybe safeguard from disappointment. And so my question to the panel and to you in the audience is, what do you do? What are some best practices for you to help you deal with disappointment, personally, professionally, or whatever? So let's go ahead and start with Debbie. You're over to my right, so let's go ahead and start with you.
I was wanting to hear. Oh, I'm really here to learn from you guys what I need to do for my disappointment. I was hoping to get an education. I can say I thought about it a little bit right before I tuned in, and one of the things I can honestly say that I do is all of a sudden disappointment grabs you by the throat. And you react. I'm a human being. I'm not immune to disappointments, and I don't always handle them eloquently. I react. Sometimes I have a tendency to be an overreactor. I'm a super emotional person. So disappointments, failures of any kind never feel good to me or anyone else for that matter.
Yeah.
But what I have found over the years of learning my personality and all that stuff is that I try to let it come in, the disappointment come in, and then I find out why I'm affected and it's triggering me so badly. There are some flaws in my personality and in me in general that I have found over the years. I, have a tendency to be hypercritical of myself if things don't go the way I have it planned in my head. So over the years, I've adapted and changed in the way of understanding that no one's perfect. No one ever will be perfect. And I don't want to be, right? So I have to process it in a different way and let it come in. And then I use that to say, what have I learned from it? I can do better. And honestly, sometimes in the end, I have found by learning from this is that what I wanted wasn't really what was good for me anyway. And I think God and the universe was protecting me. So now when things happen, I say, I've learned from this that what I think I want isn't always what's best for me.
Amen.
And I rationalize it that way a little bit more.
Wow, that's some good stuff. I love the fact that you assess first what's triggering you, what happened that's triggering you. Wow, it's a great thing. If we could just pause long enough to just assess like you do, I think we'd all be better off. Wow, thank you for sharing that, Debbie.
You're welcome. Thank you.
What about you, Steve?
What you just said, pause. That's something that's very difficult for most people. Most people react before they pause.
Yes.
Number one, when you're confronted with disappointment, the first thing you have to do is realize, what is it? Did you do something wrong? What was it that caused this disappointment? And if it was you, and you have the courage to admit that to yourself, then you've got to just stand back and say, wow, I screwed this up. You try to make it right somehow, some way with the group or the individual, whoever it was, learn from it and move on from there. It's also crucial, I believe, because there's disappointment and there's major disappointment. I've been in some form of entertainment for more than half of my life. Yeah. I don't know if there's a business where you're confronted with disappointment more than show business. You go for audition after audition after audition, and when I did stand up, I remember there were times when they had a casting call for a part in a sitcom, and there were like 100 people auditioning, and then all of a sudden you get close, and it's between you and 5 other people, and then it's 3, and then you don't get it. That's disappointment.
Yeah.
That's disappointment. That's nothing you did. That's just disappointment. And I believe, and I used to not do this, but I believe that when you're confronted with disappointment like that, first thing you do is let it bother you. I think venting it, admitting it, and say, I say, F this. I'm not going to say it here, but I do what I have to do to just to make it hurt. And whether it's going away somewhere on a beach or in a park or something, just go, man. And then I vent it out. I let it go. And by allowing myself to do that, instead of holding it in and saying, okay, something else will come up. No. I vent it really, really intensely. And then I go, that's it. That's over. And I try, and I made it a habit where I don't let it affect me. It might come into my brain at some point, but I won't let it control my life. And then I'll say, what can I do to tweak it, to make it better? And I'll make a point of that next morning when I wake up before I take the covers off to bless the things that life has given me. And sometimes, Bob, that's not easy.
Yeah. Amen.
It's not easy when you know you were so close to something. But I do it. I do it. I want to bless the things that life has given me. I'm grateful for what I have. And damn, out of 100 people, and it was down to 3 people, and I was one of the 3. That's not failure.
Right. Right.
And that's what helps when you say that's not failure. That's just disappointment. I think people got to go through the course of every day when you're setting out to achieve your goal, even going through the course of the day, that you're going to be confronted with a challenge. You're going to be confronted with disappointments. Some people will get hit with major disappointments, some with some just regular disappointments, but you're going to be confronted with it. And I think if you're aware of that, I'm not saying focus on it, but if you're aware of that, hey, you know what? I'm going to be confronted with some shit here. But you know what? There's something within me that can meet this disappointment head on, and I will become empowered as a result. And that's what I do.
Yeah.
It's simple.
Yeah.
But it maybe it's not that easy, but it can be done.
Yeah. Yeah. Simple and easy don't appear in the same definition in Webster's, do they?
Yeah.
Very difficult. Very difficult.
Yeah. Thank you, Sharon Thompson, for being here. One of my personal friends.
Thanks for sharing that, Steve. Flo, you're up there in the corner. What say you?
I was kind of like Debbie going, well, okay, let's see. Let's think of all the things that I've done to overcome disappointment. I think it's twofold, because I used to think I would do the cliche like, okay, I did my best. Or what will be, this is how it's supposed to be. But then I met Bob. I met you, not Steve's Bob, the one he talks to.
My co-host.
And you kind of said, well, unfulfilled expectations lead to disappointment and anger and a whole list of things.
Right.
So then I try to think, well, what were my expectations then? And was that goal or whatever I had expecting, was that too high or was it too low or whatever? So yeah, I evaluated a different, what did I do? What could I have done? I reassess and then go from there.
Yeah. Good stuff.
I love that.
Thanks for sharing.
Thanks.
Mr. Barry.
Well, Flo kind of started where I was going to go, so thank you for that.
You're welcome.
The thing about expectations is one of these things that we can have unrealistic ones. So sometimes we get in the trap of setting up expectations so high that almost guarantee disappointment because of a habit we got into. Right. But the other part of it is, and it's funny, I got into a habit of doing this for a while because I noticed oftentimes that what I wanted didn't happen, but something came up second was actually better than the first thing. And it happened regularly for about 2 or 3 years. I was going, this is the way to do it. Be unattached because something better's coming. And that's the thing I use as my reference point, is that disappointment is only showing up because I'm attached to a result.
Right.
And I'm attached to a thing being a certain way or some way happens. And I know that I can't control everything. I've learned the lesson so many times. Universe has taught me lessons. You can't control this, let go. And so I've learned for myself that ability to flow, so to speak, no pun intended.
Oh, it's always all about flow.
Yes.
To be in the flow with the W.
Just go with that flow.
You can stay with the other flow. Don't blow it.
There's a sense also of being nimble in a way. It's like being able to be somewhat agile, because the thing I've noticed for myself, when I got really in a rut or stuck on a position, that's when disappointment happens more often, because I'm attached to a result that isn't going to happen anyway. So if I can be more fluid, more agile, and also be less attached, that's the other lesson I've had to learn many times over, be unattached, then what happens is going to be easier for me to accept, because it's not what I expected, but it's what I actually enjoyed. So that's a shift.
Yeah. Love that.
Good stuff. Thanks for sharing.
Sure.
Who do you want to call on, Lynn?
Well, I guess I'll call on me really quick to answer the question, I guess.
Wait a minute. Let me call on you. Lynn, what do you think?
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for that. I appreciate that, buddy. Cheers. No, I learned a long time ago that, expect the unexpected. Always expect the best, but expect the worst. and you'll never be disappointed. But when you are disappointed, say, why did you set yourself up for those feelings? So I've learned to let go of any expectations or assuming all the things around me. It's going to happen the way it's going to happen. And when you realize that you have no control, I mean, there's been a few times in my life I've had to literally let go and not what I thought was going to happen and go by faith. And one of them is having a semi truck as I'm spinning around in Yellowstone Park, or drugging behind a vehicle and saying I have to let go instead of having fear. And I mean, those are pretty drastic, but when you say, okay, I'm going to accept whatever happens and I'm out of control, then it always works out for the greater good. We spend too much time, when I was going to be a peace officer, a cop, like we were told before we arrested anybody or whatever, when in doubt, don't. So why set yourself up of doubt and disappointment? Because you only have yourself to blame for that. You truly do. And most times the things you fear the most are things that were, like if you say, oh, I don't want to go to this function, and you go, and guess what? It's the freaking best function you ever went to. Why? Because you were assuming the worst. You didn't expect it to be good. And I love to see people that just realize that we assume too much. Woulda, shoulda, coulda. Don't do it on yourself. When you realize if things went really bad, it's something that you did. You didn't meet it halfway. You came with a half full cup instead of looking at it with an open, what can I do to make this experience the best glorious? What can I do to have the experience and to learn what I can from this situation? And when you realize that you can explore everything in your life, from leaving your home to having a conversation or being on this panel or whatever you're doing, you can be happy that you did it as opposed to not doing it. Because without doing it, you never know what you could gain from it. So I think overcoming disappointment is you overcoming the judgment of the things you assume that are expected to happen. So don't assume things on the negative side. Assume it's going to be the best glorious experience you had, and no matter what, you're going to learn something from it. Because I truly believe in every disaster, every bad thing that ever happens to you, there's always a silver lining. And even when you have bad customer service, it's always for the greater good. They give you something free. They remember you next time. Quit your bitching. It's always good. It's like, oh, this bad thing. But you know what? Something's good right around the corner. I guarantee it, So, and I mean, you can also say that about ambulance chasers too, but that's for another show. Anyways, Bob?
Yeah, all these are great thoughts. I think everyone has really contributed in a big way to helping us all understand there are different ways that we can help. When I look at, Flo alluded to one of the next level pillars that says unfulfilled expectations lead to anger, bitterness, resentment, frustration, and overwhelm. So anytime you're feeling one of those emotions, anger, bitterness, resentment, frustration, overwhelm, all you have to do is look and say, what was I expecting to happen that didn't happen? And then you can say, okay, I was expecting my spouse to not cheat on me, or I was expecting that sale to go through, or whatever it was. And then you can say, okay, so that didn't happen. So that's why I'm feeling this emotion or these emotions. What am I prepared to do about that now? So I love the assessment part that you guys were talking about, because I think that's that first part is, what is it that I was expecting that didn't happen? The disappointment of that is probably linked to something. And then to say, was this expectation, was this the thing that I'm disappointed about? Was I expecting a dog to meow? I think a lot of times we're expecting something to happen that's never going to happen. And then we wonder why we're so frustrated or overwhelmed or whatever else, or why we have so much, resentment and everything else. When I look at this question for me, as I was thinking about it today, I just keep thinking about, this overcoming disappointment. One, we have to realize, was the disappointment really a disappointment, or was it something that we made up in our head that was going to happen, that didn't happen, but really was never probably ever going to happen anyways? And then realizing that we contribute. I love, I think what Barry said, I love the fact that we contributed to that. So how do we How do we fix that? I think that was Barry, right? How did we play a part in that? Who else said that? I'm sorry. Did I mess it up?
It doesn't matter. I think collectively we're
collective.
all.
I think that idea that what part did we play in it is huge.
Mm-hmm.
And then just to realize that what are we prepared to do about it now?
I also think we're too hard on ourselves.
Yeah, very true.
I mean, it's part of the human condition. The first thing we always say, what did I do wrong? And sometimes you didn't. You did the best that you can. And I think it's because we have created this mindset in this country in particular that it's so damn crucial to be the best. One of the things I raised my son with that I can think I believe I did the right thing is that it's not important to be the best. What's important is to be the best that you can be. And by being the best that you can be comes down to you are considered the best in your category. Well, then that's great. But if not, that's great too. Yeah. I mean, think about the stigma that we've made in this country. Best actor, best actress, best comedian, best movie, best director. And we're sitting there and in our opinions, we're going, I don't think that's the best picture. I don't think that's the best picture at all. I thought this picture was that movie was a lot better than this one. But the label's already there. It's bestowed upon the one that was voted the best. And I think I really believe in my heart that there's something wrong with that.
See, and that's why
if you look at the Olympics, just look at the Olympics, and I understand the whole mindset there. But if you look at the Olympics and you see, it's a 100-meter dash, and the guy that wins by a fraction of a second, it's like that. If the guy had a pimple on his nose, the other guy would have won. You know what I mean? If the guy he would have won. That's how close it was. But the guy that wins is the guy that gets put on the Wheaties box. He's the one that gets all the endorsements. Why? Because he's considered the best. And I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm a sap and I just look at the person that came this close. But there's got to be something said. If you could just say to yourself, I did the best I could. But how many people do that? How many people fall as a victim in that disappointment saying, I should have started faster. I should have took another step. I should have. No, man, you came that close.
You see, and that's why we love this show is because it's called As We All See It. We all see it from different angles. And because we all see it from different angles, doesn't mean we're all wrong. Doesn't mean we're all right.
No, it means I'm right. No.
In your mind. And that's right. Whatever you think is what you think is correct. But again, that's very important to bring here. And that's what Scott always talks about, addiction and traumas and different things like that. It's okay to, you got to admit you have a problem. You got to admit that, you're not perfect in the situation or whatever and take ownership, but you can't keep beating yourself down every day. No, you are your own best friend. Go ahead, Barry.
Well, I was going to say, you say something from what Debbie said at the beginning, because this is something that was in my mind as well, is the thing about taking the pause is that we have reflex actions to things. Kind of what Steve was saying too, but also what happens when something happens, we immediately get into reactive mode and get upset, and then we go down the spiral of disappointment. If we can simply go, whoa, what was that? And take the moment to take a breath.
Yeah.
I talk about we're dealing with upsets in relationships. Oftentimes, if that counts to 10 thing works. If you take 10 accounts to 10 to just breathe and be present and then decide what to do. I do it with text messages often too, where I get text that comes through and go, okay. And I'm like, no, don't respond yet. Count to 10, let it sit for a minute, and then I get a whole new thought comes through and go, now I can text a more clear, concise, and better response. And that pause can really diminish that reaction to disappointment.
I agree, but I want to take I want to take a quick minute and acknowledge Karen Hurley, which is Scott's partner, and she's in Panama with Scott, I believe, and they're doing an amazing job over there. So, Karen, thank you for everything you do. I love you, and give Scott a hug for me.
Yeah, thank you.
Tell him to come and say hi on here because we got a little happy birthday to tell him too. So I'm sure he's listening.
You do.
But anyways, but yes, back to what you're saying is it's absolutely true. If we just take a pause, and there comes my New York, Long Island accent, pause and do that and not be reactive. And that's, people don't understand. everything you say will be held against you. Sorry, peace officer type stance here, Miranda writes, but that's true. If you stop for a minute, you know how many times you'll regret the things you've done that you wish you didn't do out loud? I mean, if you take that pause and just think, or you do like I do, I get upset. I call my Debbie and I vent to her and she has to listen to me. But I mean, call a friend, dial a friend, do something, somebody you trust or safe with in order to vent. I mean, these are things that because if you keep doing the same thing, what are you expecting to be different? And
Dr. Phil's in the house.
What in darnation have you been thinking? What is wrong with you, woman?
How did that work for you?
Yeah. How'd that work? How's that working for you?
Yeah. So what are the things you have found, Bob, that have helped some people break through and tools that have helped, or for all of you guys here, tools that you've used to actually have helped other people or have helped you to stop what you're doing and shifting your thoughts?
I think one of the most powerful ones that I've ever seen and practiced, and I'm practicing it because I have not perfected it by any means, but is that pausing, is that stopping and saying, wait, what is this all about? And then, taking a beat there. But I've seen other people do such things as, go do physical exercise when they're disappointment, to have that emotional and cathartic release there. So things like that have always been, I think, our go-tos, that no matter how big or large or small the disappointment is, things like that can be as simple as just putting on a playlist that really is motivating and encouraging and sustainable for you. Those are three top things that are in my playbook when I'm dealing with disappointment. And then I think you hit the nail on the head when we talked about, surrounding yourself with the right people. Are you surrounding yourself with people that are going to, be there for you? Because so many people say they will, but they don't. And are they going to be people that will be able to hold you accountable and say, hey, wait, you said this. Now let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And then 3, are you going to be surrounding yourself with people that are going to love you and not sit there and beat you up because you made a mistake or because, XYZ. So I think all of those things are the things, my go-tos. But what about you, Steve?
What?
He was sleeping on us.
Were you sleeping?
No, I agree. I totally agree with what you're saying. But I think venting is immediately venting, as I said earlier, is about the best thing you could possibly do. And then could have a friend that you can just talk to that will, like you just said, it's so true, because that's what a friend is. I mean, I was talking to Debbie earlier. We were Zooming, and she wanted this one little thing that she wanted me to do. And then she just brought up, because I noticed you haven't done that yet. And, and she says it with that Debbie smirk. And I'm going like this. I'm like, oh, fuck. Sorry.
I'm going to use that on her sometime.
And she puts me
first grade all over again.
Yeah. I feel like I'm being reprimanded. And I noticed, though, that you haven't done that yet, Stephen. Why is that? And I'm like,
just curious.
Geez, there she goes again, huh? And I look at her like Edith. I noticed you haven't done it, Archie. How come?
And I actually sound like that sometimes.
No, but man, it's about taking control of your life. And I really believe that you have to wake up in the morning and just know that it's going to be a beautiful day, but there's a really good chance that crap is going to happen. And you've got to know. And I say to myself, I say to myself, whatever this day brings, there is something within me that can meet this challenge head on. I'll learn from it, and I will become empowered once again. That's why I'm in a position of what I do for a living. It's not because everything is perfect. It's because I screwed up a lot in my life. Yeah. A great part of my life, I screwed up a lot of things. And I'm the one that made the mistakes. And my goal now that I'm finally getting this, and it doesn't matter how old you are. The point is that you got to get it at some point. And even if it's later in your age, you just go, I finally got this. What can I do with this stuff that I've learned? And I've learned everything valuable in my life. I learned the hard way, everything. And that's why I'm in a position where when I give people what I call common sense strategies, I'm coming from a place that I screwed up.
Yeah.
And, and that's okay. But what are you going to do about the screw ups? That's the point. Are you going to blame other people, or are you going to feel sorry for yourself? Are you going to become the victim instead of allowing yourself to become the victor and do something about it? The ultimate empowerment to any disappointment is admitting you screwed up, is admitting that you're wrong, and what can I do to serve and help other people? If you can do that, all that other stuff disappears. And then you could say to yourself, oh, okay, I was put on this planet to teach people about how much I screwed up in my life. And that's not a bad, that's a great thing.
No, and it's great. That's why we call them lessons instead of you don't need to, lessons.
But that's my point. When some people learn it and over and over and over until they finally get it.
Yeah, they get that certificate of a hard knocks.
Yeah. I had an ego that was so big years ago. I mean, it dominated my life. And I was talking to Debbie, and you alluded to it earlier, Debbie, and it was sometimes what you want in life isn't what you need to be happy. Because for the most part, what you want feeds your ego. What you need feeds your soul. And every now and then you have to stop and ask yourself, which one am I feeding now?
That's good.
That's
yeah.
I love your question, though, Bob. I really respect everything since I've seen you here on the screen. This is a great question because, man, it touches everything. Because everybody on this planet, even people that we think, even Oprah Winfrey, the ones that we look at as the elite, they all have disappointment.
Right.
They won't let us know because these people have come to the point where they're thinking, my life is perfect. And it's not. Nobody's life is perfect. Yeah. Everyone has their own shit to deal with.
And look at all the people and all the professors and all the people that have achieved things that we have in this life now, like cell phones and Steve Jobs and everybody. They were disappointed so many times because people didn't believe in their vision, but they kept going. All the times of having the disappointments, they didn't quit. They still took action to do it a different way.
Yeah.
And so we need to remember that we too are. Colonel Sanders, he was what? He didn't make it till like he was in his 80s with his recipe.
It took him over 1,000 tries to sell his chicken recipe.
Yeah, exactly.
He would have quit on 998.
Exactly. So again, that's not screwing up. That's that's in the category of disappointment. But if it's gonna be, it's up to me, kind of thing.
I like that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So
I want to speak
to
who
else? Gary,
what Steve said, to take the things you've made mistakes on and turn it into your skill set to teach from is a gift.
Huge.
Frankly, that's what I do because I've made so many mistakes in past relationships that give me the gift to learn what I did wrong, to teach other people not to do that. Right. So whatever it is you have as a skill set can come from your own clumsiness, mistakes, and everything else. I mean, you make Colonel Sanders. What about the light bulb? 1,100 and something tries to get the light bulb right. The truth is
10,000 tries. You're right.
And the thing is that the thing about that is, though, you also know 9,999 ways not to do it. That's a skill set.
That's what he said to a reporter when the reporter was trying to get him. And a sarcastic young reporter said, well, how does it feel to fail at creating the light bulb? He goes, young man, I didn't fail. I just learned, close to 10,000 ways on how not to create a light bulb. And I learned from it. Yeah,
exactly. I had a really serious conversation with my daughter yesterday. She's, as a parent, you're either an example of how to be or not to be for your kid. And no matter what you do, you're going to mess up their life somehow. I don't care what you say. And my daughter, I want to do a podcast with her because I'll tell you what, I had a lot of trauma, a lot of shit. And I messed my kids up because I didn't take a stance and all that. I can't change any of that. And all I can do is let her be seen and heard. but of course, I'm grateful because she's asked me some important questions that I was able to explain to her that she didn't have parts to the pieces to, which I told her, keep asking me. As long as I'm alive, keep asking me the things you want to ask me, because I can't answer them from when I'm not here. And again, I said to her, honey, she's like, Mom, I tried very hard not to do what I felt you were doing, but I'm doing the things you're doing. And I'm parenting different, but I'm getting very frustrated. Now I can see how, because I'm an old school, I'd yell them instead of beating them, and blah, blah, blah. So now she yells at her kids. I'm like, at any rate, that the point of me saying all that is I said to her, look, every parent doesn't come out and tell you that being a parent is the hardest thing. You don't like disciplining your kids. You don't like telling them what to do and not to do. All these things, you love them so much. Sometimes you can't explain everything to them because they don't understand. But yet you're there. They need to learn their lessons. And one time I said, honey, I can't help you. You're going to have to learn for yourself. And unfortunately, a 15-year-old just hung onto the bated breath of those words and not heard the rest of the sentence. It's just like if you tell somebody you got cancer and they hear that, they don't hear, but it's curable and you'll be cancer-free by next week. They will not hear that. So again, the disappointment comes in what we receive or what we choose to believe is what we're hearing. And that's where we have so much disconnect and problems. So the disappointment comes of, what did you expect from that person? When somebody's telling you their story, like my daughter from her perspective, I can't sit there and defend myself because she's telling me from her mind's eye, her perspective. Right. And therefore, you got to realize I can't be disappointed that she's saying it from her way. And this is what's wrong with the world. Parents think, well, I'm your parent, you need to respect me. No, your kid has seen it from their side. Now it's your turn to be there for your child and let your child, you got to heal your child while you're still alive, and the world would be a better place. And so it's very important about communication. It's very important to know that, don't stay stuck in your old story or how you see it. See it from your child's perspective, or see it from another person's perspective, and see how you would feel if you were put in that situation.
Yeah. Great.
It's great.
So anyways,
great share.
It's a great show.
I wanted to say something that isn't necessarily disappointment, but that parallels disappointment, which is a few people have made comments about mistakes. And mistakes that we make, we're human. And I recently just had a conversation with someone else about their view of a mistake and in their life. And my response was, do you think you're that unique that you're not going to make mistakes? And then the challenge is forgiveness. And, I feel in my heart, there are so many people who make mistakes, as we all do, but then they don't give themselves the same grace of forgiveness that they give to other people that they love.
I agree.
We forgive people, Lynn. Your daughter will forgive. She knows what it's like now to be a parent. And it's a difficult job because the emotional body is so into it and you just want so much for your children. So it's difficult sometimes to take that pause when it's your own child's disappointment, because we take on that disappointment for them and sometimes react.
Oh, yeah.
No one's a perfect parent, and I have my flaws. And I also try and listen to their perspective of how I have reacted in some ways that wasn't great. And then I got to be able to say, I hear you, and I'm not going to do that again. But I guess the point to circle back around is this. When we make mistakes, learn from it, and please, for the love of God, for the love of Bob, forgive yourself. Forgive yourself.
Yeah. And that's true. And it's easier to forgive yourself when you put yourself in that other person's perspective and hear it from their perspective and say, I'm sorry, I'd never seen it your way. And I'm sorry I didn't handle it that way. But it's just like you're multitasking, you're answering tons of phone calls at work or whatever. Somebody's going to have to wait longer on the line. Somebody's going to be the last. Somebody's going to be the first. You know, it's all these different things. You don't use those as excuses, though. And that's the problem a lot of people do. They use their situation as excuses and a clutch and as an anchor, you know, and that is something
I've done that.
You know, yeah. But,
oh my God, it's been a busy day. Just what do you want? I got to answer you. Hurry, hurry. You know, that kind of thing. I've done that.
People blame their parents. Yeah. People blame their parents, their boss, their significant other, their husband, their wife. They blame everything for them not being successful or happy. And you know, it's really all on you. It's you.
Yeah.
It's us. It's all of us. It's on you. It's not what happens. It's what you do about what happens. It's how you think about what happens.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. And people have a hard time getting that, because when you try to explain that to some people, you think they're getting it. And yeah, but as soon as they say but, you're going, oh shit, they don't get it. They don't get it. There's no buts. The only but is what you're sitting on. That's the only but.
Yeah.
Right.
And we'll call that a boot from here on out.
A boot.
Yeah. So again, and again, don't let overcoming disappointment be the excuse of, well, you know, I was disappointed because of this or that. Own up your part. Own up the fact that you set yourself up for disappointment. Ain't nobody setting you up for disappointment but yourself. You know, because when you can take ownership to that, then you got to realize your ownership for creating everything in your world.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not. So that's where you stay positive and be grateful. So Bob, I'm going to hand it to you to start.
I think this is just great stuff. All of you guys are just sharing some really powerful things that we all need to be reminded of. So I'm very grateful for each one of you and for each one of your impressions. You know, when I look at that ownership thing, Lynn, that you're talking about, you know, can I own that I was abused as a kid? Can I own that I, you know, was put in tough situations? Can I own that? And if you can own it, you can do something about it. But as long as you don't own it, as long as you can't own it, then you're at cause. There's nothing you can do to change it. It's, if I didn't do it, then somebody else did. That means they've got to fix it. And I think one of the biggest things that I'm, you know, seeing that with what we're talking about today is just owning that and saying, I'm okay with the fact that I did some things, or I didn't do some things, or I allowed some things. All three of those, I did, I didn't do, or I allowed some things that could have changed the trajectory and changed the outcome.
Yep.
So I'm,
and guess what?
Ownership is the key thing for.
And guess what? At the end of the day, it's all in the past.
Right.
So you move on.
Yeah. And the key thing, I think, when we own it, when we allow ourselves to own it, right?
Yes.
I think that a lot of times we take away all the power of everything outside of us, and we put that power back to us. So
that's the ultimate empowerment. That's the ultimate empowerment.
Absolutely. Always.
You're learning from it. My greatest I've said this many times in front of you people, and my greatest challenge have become my greatest blessings because I learned from it. That is the ultimate empowerment. It's enlightening. It's a release. I laugh out loud sometimes, but sometimes I'll criticize myself, joke and say, how come I didn't learn this crap 20 years ago?
Yeah.
30 years ago, 40 years ago. Because
you had to be a great lesson and example for others. That's for the greater good of humankind.
Okay.
Flo, what say you, Flo?
Wow, this is all good. Taking the pause, forgiving yourself. These are all practices that, yes, I have to continue to practice. Reevaluating, all of that. Yeah, just so much and owning it. Yeah, just owning it. That's a big one because
it's a big one, and it is not easy for a lot of people.
Right.
And soon as soon as you hear that, okay, I own it, but as soon as you hear the but, it's going, no, you don't own it.
Canceled. Everything's canceled.
It's happening to you. It's not anyone else now. You're the only one feeling this. So if you're feeling it, you got to do something about those feelings. Change your belief. Yeah, but.
And we were learning on what the Tony Robbins thing, if any of you saw that, the Time to Thrive, that you out of your mess is a message.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
That's good.
Absolutely.
How about you, Debbie?
Yeah, I appreciate all of you so much. And a lot of times I come on here and I do end up talking quite a bit, but I do learn so much. I listen to you all very intently because you're very inspiring people as a whole. The other thing though that I gathered from was that's true, Bob, physical exercise, physicality in general, when you're upset about something, getting those endorphins going. That can be part of your pause. I mean, if you ever see me in the mall, all of a sudden just doing jumping jacks, look out. It's just a matter of finding what you need for you. And I know what I need to do for me. And I'm not always perfect at it. And I still overreact sometimes. Boom. And then I have to reel myself back in. I'm like, damn it, it's too late. And I already did it now. But, I'm better than I was. And it's a process. Yeah. And I'm figuring it out along the way. And these types of podcasts and coming together in union like this helps me and helps others. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's well said.
I love you. And I tell women that are so vain about their looks, remember, if you get upset, you're going to have a new wrinkle. It ain't worth it. It's just a beauty tip among everything.
I've been wearing seaweed masks.
Gosh, I almost uploaded that. And I said no.
Yeah.
I said that was in her private group. So
it looks really crazy.
Yeah.
And it dries.
Scares her dog to death. Anyhow, Mr. Barry.
To speak off of what Debbie said, the state change is one of the keys. Yeah. Is the thing, count to 10, go for a walk, run down the beach, go jumping jacks in the mall, whatever it is that gets you in the state change. You can start to realize, first of all, how silly it is. But secondly, you say, oh, hang on a second. Because the biggest thing is disappointment doesn't control you. You get to control it. Again, what Steve was saying, what you've all been saying is about we have the choice to do something with it. I could do a whole thing about the relationship piece about hereditary patterns, but that's another time for another time. Because we were saying Lynn got me inspired on that one. But the reality is when we do change our state, because one, we recognize we're in control. We're not at the mercy of something else, so we can change our state. The second piece is now I feel differently, like looking at things differently. How do I want to deal with it now? And that's one of the simplest actions you can take.
Just reminds me, it's just like if you're flicking channels. If you don't like what you see on the channel, change the freaking channel, change the frequency. Just change
You're
it.
right. Some people will stay on the channel on the news channel and stay on it. What the hell are you talking about? You have no idea. And they stay there. And their blood pressure's going up. They're losing more hair, and what?
Steve, stop telling all about your secrets.
Yeah,
you idiot.
One of the things I find is this, and several of you guys have touched on it. This whole ability to extend grace. To ourselves and to others, when there's many times that I've known the right thing to do, haven't done the right thing, and then I get pissed off, right? And then I get upset. Then I start spiraling down the hill even faster, and it's a matter of that going, stop. Wow, I need to extend grace to myself right now.
Yes.
I need to say sorry to myself.
Yeah. Oh.
And get that straight. Then I can start talking about with other people. And I remember a real quick story. My sophomore year high school football coach, amazing guy, just an amazing, incredible man. He blew up on the sideline one day. We didn't even really know what he said. He said something to an official. Came back in and he says, everyone take a knee. Took a knee and he goes, I need to pray. I need to tell God that I did not set a good example for you as young men. So please just bear with me while I pray. And he prayed this prayer of just, please forgive me, not for what he said. Please forgive me for setting such a bad example for these young men that have been entrusted to me. And I still remember him saying that going, and I'm bawling, and half the class, half the team's going, What did he say? What did he say? Nobody knew what he said, but he knew what he said, and he felt such remorse. But he said it straight as soon as we got in the locker room, and then everything was done. And just the ability to forgive.
The humanity to see somebody be humble like that and out of character to show the reality.
That's all it takes.
Yeah,
owning up to it. Just
So, I mean, I'm grateful that everybody. I'm grateful that everybody that here, I could tell every one of you that I love it, and I love you guys, and it comes right from my heart, and I appreciate every one of you, and blessed to know every one of you. And I'm just thankful for my co-host again, Mr. Bob Donnell. Thank you for being here at the last minute.
Thank you.
It was a great topic. I put him on. I was like, what can we talk about? Anything in closing for you, Bob?
I'm just grateful that each one of you hop on something like this and share the good, the bad, and the ugly. The places where you've not lived up to the best version of yourself, and also the ambition of each one of you to have the next best version of yourself, even in midst of tougher times. And I know that all of you guys have things going on in your life, and I don't take it lightly that you hop on something like this, or you hop on anything that is meant to better you. So I'm very grateful for that. I live in a world, especially this type of world, where people are wanting to be better.
Oh, Bob, I love you. I love Flo. I just love all you guys. Thank you so much. Before we leave, I don't want to forget to wish this guy
Happy birthday
to you.
Happy
birthday to you.
Please don't sing.
Happy birthday.
This is called a happy birthday montage.
Right.
Version of happy birthday.
Right.
Yeah, and you know what? If he doesn't watch it, or he didn't make it to the end, he won't know nothing until next week. He wants to celebrate his birthday. So make sure you come over, stop by the show next week, and we'll see what antics.
Wait, who's in charge of giving birthday spankings?
I
don't know.
Virtual.
Volunteering?
Birthday spankings.
All right. Thank you so much. You guys stay right there. Thank you so much. And remember, we all matter. What you feel, we all see you. Go check out Bob's TED Talk on To Be Seen. I love that. Love that TED Talk. Thank you guys so much for being here. Really appreciate you. And we'll see you next week. Love you guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall